Hi, and welcome to Battle Bard. I'm Steven, the lead producer on the project, and I have here with me McCain, the lead designer and the vision holder.
Good to be here.
So, McCain, you're the vision holder on the project, and where did this idea come from?
So the idea came from like the rhythmic stuff from ham boning. So like when you do this, it makes different sounds in your body. And so we wanted to add drums in various areas. Originally we had 6 drums in the prototype, and we reduced down to a different number. But we also started with a different kind of design. We started with a MOBA-esque design that really was focused on waves and doing rhythmic combos to defeat those waves that are attacking your dwarven fortress.
So going from the prototype to, obviously we've been through a bit of a development process here, what are some of the changes that you made in order to make the game more fun or more approachable?
So we really wanted to go for more of a narrative format. A feeling of progression is something that we wanted to prioritize, and so we added more narrative beats to the project and also tutorializations to kind of help the player learn our game. And this came about after a really hard switch from an arena style to a kind of single format linear structure. And with that design, we were able to incorporate a better pace and also a better design throughout the game in terms of balancing different enemy type introductions and many types of buffs, and actually able to kind of create a more robust game overall.
More buffs, more enemies, more fun, right?
Exactly.
Fantastic. So there's a lot of really cool ways that the design evolved over time, but then with this alt controller, you also have hardware that needs to evolve too. So what were some of the changes that, and some of the things that you learned that started from the beginning and how they kind of progressed to make it more accessible?
Yeah, exactly. We tried to keep our controller really accessible. The biggest aspect of our game is the controller, and so it has to be easily wearable, easily readable, and fit all body types. And we even tried to get in things later in our development stages to enhance that, such as different designs for the controller, even different drum placements, having that accessibility where you can actually move the drums up higher or like around your waist, depending on like what you wanted. We even started with 6 drums, and we realized through playtesting that that was too many for players, and it wasn't actually comfortable. And that was such a weird thing to kind of have a new challenge about, because it's not something you think about, especially in indie dev, and especially with these unique alt controller projects. You really get a sense of, wow, we have a very baseline, a few buttons that we're pressing, and then now we're like, oh, okay, we actually have drums. It's visually there, and doesn't look like nipples, quite frankly.
Always good to have your controller not look like nipples.
Right.
Fantastic. Now we're going to talk to one of our engineers, Oljan, who's going to go into the strategy that we use to implement some of the AI elements in the game.
Thank you for saving me from that orc encampment.
Well, I'm glad you could make it, Oljan.
I'm glad as well.
So we have strategy as one of our most important parts of the game. And as an engineer, we have a lot of orcs on the screen, a lot of dwarves that we're trying to save. What were some of the hurdles that you came across, and what were some of the things that you did in order to make sure that that worked and had fun on screen?
So I primarily worked on AI, as you know, and we wanted to make it feel as natural as possible when it comes to how a human thinks. And basically our approach was to go with a state machine mechanic that we implemented, and our own states that we can script, and our own actors that can just have those custom states or whatever they need. So we created a really scalable and customizable AI layout for our project, and I'm really excited about going forward with this design as well with our code, because we can actually add in lots of different types of units and play around with it however we like, and I'm really excited about that.
So we have the capacity to do more orcs, more dwarves, and more fun. So with our combo system, we implemented a metronome to help introduce our player to some of the game elements that we were going to be using. Can you go into a little bit more detail of how we use that?
So we have a note evaluator script that we made as well, that goes into strategy a lot, because we have different tiers for our buffs that we're actually performing in the game. So there's a note evaluator that works together with the metronome to actually find a grade for your each of your notes, and then eventually a grade for your entire buff. So it actually creates these different type of situations where you have to sometimes up the tier of your bonus, your buff, or maybe go into a different buff. So it just adds a lot of interesting situations to the game.
So more tiers, more buffs, more fun. And here's Biraj, our lead on audio, to tell us more about how the combos and the metronome system inform the rhythm and helped guide our dwarves forward.
Speaking of guiding the dwarves, we also give the players a chance to guide the rhythm. The music of the game is set in a medieval fantasy theme, which matches the art of our game. And there are multiple musical segments, right? So each segment has a lot of stems in it, and they're played at random every time you call the stems, and all of them have smooth transitions with them. And each time the tier level increases, the complexity of those combos as well, of the rhythm, of the music stems, they also increase, which allows the player to come back to the game again and again and try creating different musical segments.
So more music, more rhythm, more fun. Similar to how the audio was inspired by the medieval fantasy theme, we have Kay here, one of our artists, to talk more about how the art in BattleBard followed that same style.
So we adopted our initial low-poly stylized art style from our prototype game. And while we were doing some researching on the specific art style, we found that World of Warcraft is the best fit for our game, because since we're also doing this medieval fantasy game genre, we have like a lot of orcs and dwarf stories, and I found that World of Warcraft has the similar content, so that we choose the World of Warcraft as our inspiration.
Then you also added some art pieces that you could use a bunch of different places more easily for
Yeah,
the designers
definitely.
as well.
So when we were making our 3D assets, we try to make them as modular as possible. And by modular, that means we can make them with the least amount of time, and we can produce the most amount of assets in a short development phase.
Yeah. So more assets, more modularity, more fun.
A trap? Oh, they're more prepared than I thought. Quick, Bard, heal them up before they're lost. Now, dwarves, take back our home! That one there, that's the one leading these beardless runs. If we take them out, the rest will scatter.